Next up, we'll do some lifting. So I generally lift, ooh, my stone's not quite big enough for this wonky project. I generally lift anywhere that there is a curve. I try to use this as sort of a round beveler. It's a little bit of cheating, but it works. So like in that little, that's a pretty normal place to use a lifter. But then in here is where I sort of cheat. I think it's cheating. Maybe it's not cheating. But right in there, is it sort of like a round bevel. And then I'll get that other side of that later when I turn the piece. This helps with your efficiency. Sometimes though you get lost, so you have to find a good trade between efficient and knowing where you are. Hopefully I won't get lost today. Here's where it's pretty handy when you've got basically a circle to get the inside of. Otherwise, you're using your teeny tiny beveler quite a lot. And like in here, I'll still go in with my beveler and get those corner pieces just to clean that up. But you get the bulk of it with a wider tool. Okay, so I can turn a little bit, get these parts that I missed. And I'm going to not lift that. I'm just going to get a regular beveler under there. So I'll put that tool away for a little while. Get out my Berry King Extra Steep checkered beveler. I like Extra Steep one. I think probably because who I learned from, he used that. So I probably like that more because of it. But if my vine work gets kind of tight, then I think a steep bevel makes a nicer line. If my vine work's going to be spread out more, then I think a regular beveler makes a nicer shadow. I think it's personal preference. I could totally be wrong. But I'll bet I use the steep bevelers more than any of my other options. In case you're curious, having the camera here makes working slightly awkward. There's some stretching maybe I should have done beforehand. I go back if I don't like my depth, or I think I see little choppy marks, like where I maybe held the tool a weird way or moved it too far. That's usually why I go back, just to smooth things out. And with this wide beveler, you can't always get the corners very good. So I just try to tool up all the stuff I can get with it and then come back and clean up with the smaller one. It might save me time. I'm not sure it does, but let's pretend that it does. I'm going to touch up this line there just a little bit. See, probably kind of hard to see. Right here, the beveler fits in there, but it leaves just a little tiny gap between the points where the curve would be. So I'm going to come back with a different one. So I will move along. If I can zoom you in a pinch. So in here, you can see it leaves just a little tiny gap there between the tool and the leather in the middle. So I'll move this along until I feel pretty comfortable about how much of the tool is touching, and then I'll bevel. So if you see a person, I don't know if everybody does it, but you see a person trying it in, I'm literally trying to see if it's a good spot or not. Guess I could get this other long side. This part. Sneak in here from underneath. You might not be able to see much. Oh yeah, you could see pretty good. You could still see pretty good. So I might have gotten most of what I can get with this size beveler. I bet I can get all of that inside. Yeah. So I'll switch to the smaller one. So there's the next size down. So they have the same angle, but clearly one is less wide. And then I'll start working on getting the pieces where the wide one wouldn't fit very good. You don't have to hit this one quite as hard because it doesn't have as much surface area. So you don't need near as much force to get it down. Sometimes I'll start in the middle of a line, like I just did there, because I know I want to fade that part out, but I wanted to get this part in. And I think it's easier to fade, not to start in the fade, I think. Same for right here. So I start kind of in the middle of that line, and then I'm going to come back. And now that I have this smaller beveler, I can get around this corner a little better. Both outside and inside. So that's the general process. I mean, you can tell it just takes a lot of time. That's why I think it's more fun to watch them in hyperlapse, but that's the process. So I'll go through and bevel this whole kit and caboodle, and then we'll come back and do another step.